Hello and welcome back to day 3 of the 7-day Athlete AI Challenge, where I take you from not understanding how to code to full-blown athlete dev built with your own athlete operating system, what I call your Athlete OS. Today is all about memory. How do we get Claude to stop forgetting what we tell it over weeks and weeks and weeks of context? If you talked to Claude or ChatGPT before and you've gotten to the end of your context window, a lot of times it gets more and more dumb. Well, we can't have that happening when we build an operating system that's supposed to span multiple weeks, multiple months, and allow us to use it day in and day out. So we've got to get creative, and luckily it's already been solved, and so we're going to build that directly here for you today. Today, we're going to cover 3 main topics. The first, memory. Why do we need to give it memory? What actually is a context window, and how do we work around it? The second is the weekly review skill. We're going to create our second skill so that we can look back at the previous week and see what worked, what didn't work, and is there anything we want to change moving forward. And finally, we're going to look at context over a very long period of time. How does this week's data look compared to last month's? Without further ado, let's dive in. Yesterday, we built the plan skill, which allowed us to create a plan for the week ahead. Today, we're going to build the other half of that coach, and we're going to look at the previous week to see is there anything we need to change moving forward. As always, we begin in our Athlete OS. We can continue in the same chat that we had from day 2 and just build off of that. To start, you're going to want to grab the weekly review skill prompt that's attached down in the reference file, and you're going to paste that directly into the Claude chat. What we're going to do here is we're actually going to make another skill that looks back at last week's information and sees what worked, what didn't work, and is there anything we want to change moving forward. Again, the reason for a skill is because it's a repetitive task that we're going to repeat every single week. So instead of recreating the wheel next week, we can just tell Claude, hey, use the weekly review skill and look at last week's information and let me know, is there anything we need to change moving forward? So Claude is now going to go through the process of actually building out the skill. And then as you can see, it's going to run it for last week to see what the output looks like. The skill is now built. It's going to run it. It's pretty cool that this is going to do everything without me really having to give it much information. All we did was use the initial prompt that was structured well, and now Claude has enough information because we've built that over the last couple days where it understands what it needs to do. This is very interesting. When it's looking through the Strava data, it actually found an error in how the formatting is coming through from the Strava API, which basically is saying, hey, this information is not coming through the way that I thought it was going to, but instead of erroring out, Claude's smart enough to, I've got to figure out a workaround to scrub this information to actually be able to use it in the skill creation process, which is exactly what we want Claude to do week in and week out. So now you can see, so what did it just come up with? The execution read, the week of June 8th to the 14th. Now this was a moving week for me. I literally moved from my house in South Philadelphia to the suburbs, and let me tell you, I was not compliant on all my workouts. So I'm expecting Claude to absolutely rip me apart. Overall, how were your energy levels last week? Fine. Sleep, inconsistent sleep. Body, soreness or niggles? No, all clear. So one of the things that you can do in these questions that Claude's asking is you'll always see this other box. If you don't like the answers that Claude's giving you, you can actually type something in yourself. And so one of the things that I want to give Claude is a reason for why I was so bad last week at my compliance. So last week I was actually moving from the city of Philadelphia to the suburbs, and I really wasn't as compliant as I should have been. I know that it wasn't anything related to how I felt or my motivation. I just literally didn't have time and couldn't figure out a way to get it done. I've officially moved into my new house and I'm back getting after it. So I expect the next couple weeks to be much more seamless. And then just click submit answers and it'll go off. And you can see it's already looking at some of the dehydration because last week in Philadelphia, the temperatures were 90 plus degrees and it was brutal. And you can see, so just looking at my Strava data was interesting, but it wouldn't have had the full context if it didn't ask me questions about that. So because we've given Claude those specific instructions in the claude.md file that we built at day 0, it understands the proper way to go through this so that it doesn't hallucinate or make useless errors. So let's take a look. We can go into Claude, and you can see we have the plan my week, and then we also have the new one we just made, which is the weekly review skill. And now when we click in, we can say, okay, what does this actual skill consist of? Well, we've got you are my coach reviewing my week, judge execution, not attendance, showing up isn't the bar. Did I run easy? Did I run easy? Did my long run hold together? Did I hit the intent of the session? Be direct. I want to coach, not a friend. That's exact verbiage that I gave Claude in my athlete profile. And then it's going to walk through the steps. Every week, Claude is going to go through each of these steps when I tell it. Read past reviews, pull last week's information and analyze, read the plan's intent, judge against goal, not raw numbers. And then step 4, ask how I felt. Don't just take the data at its face value, actually get user input from me so that you can make a proper decision. And then finally, write the review. Don't just ingest that information, actually give me something back that's actionable. And then it's always going to have hard rules in there. Do this, don't do that. As you can see, the last week's review actually appears in our reviews folder. And so we can look at this specifically, and each week the idea is you can continue to build files every single week in each review. And so then the cool thing is, as you start to get more information in here, you can have Claude actually look at the trends week to week, building a really powerful system. As we get going and we build this skill week in and week out, the next phase of this, which we'll cover in day 6, is taking this weekly skill and turning it into an actual routine that Claude does every single week at the exact same time and then gives you a report. So that's it for today and wraps up day 3 of the 7-day Athlete AI Challenge. If you found this video helpful, like and subscribe down below, and tune in tomorrow for day 4, where we actually start researching our races and planning for those race-specific nuances that you can only get after deep research. See ya.